Steen Rasmussen.
Hell yes. Okay, cool. We love tracking. Yay. Good. So actually, it's being predicted, but also available to deliver to the organization. Not necessarily a 4-day work week, but an understanding of the value. And the challenge is, and this is, why are we having these many problems? Well, we have too many platforms, right? We saw it in the initial slide, when you were saying, what are you interested in? It's like, boom, gazillion platforms. That was like, I've never seen so many different platforms you were interested in exploring. And it might be relevant, but the problem is, we spend our time zigzagging between different platforms because they might have a value. And very often what we see when we come in with a client, they will say, okay, our Google Analytics doesn't work, re-implement it, or our Google Analytics doesn't work, install Pivot instead. But the problem is that it's very often on the user side. But there's too many options, it's too easy to try to shift. When we start gathering data, then it's really bad quality. So I did a presentation where I talked about the main reason why people gather data and analytics is because they want to make better decisions regarding marketing. But for most companies, the worst data they have anywhere in their analytics is in their marketing data, right? So there's so many places where us and the customers will make a mess of the data or not be consistent enough, and things will go over the edge. And even when we think we have the data, we have problems, right? What the customers in the business, what the stakeholders in the organization think we have is, they think we have this 100% true traffic value, but we don't tell them necessarily that, yeah, we do lose some data due to ad blockers. We do lose some data to cookie rejection, and we do lose some data due to Apple. So actually in analytics, we don't really have that good data, right? We have a problem because we have customers that think we have data to make decisions, but what we have is a sample. And it's actually one of the reasons why we worked with reCAPTCHA to begin with. That was not about being compliant. It was really about mitigating data loss to try to recapture the data that we were missing so we could get those decisions back. And I think it was Nicola who mentioned it, is that the curse of consent mode and the curse of and this is just Google, right? The curse of it is that consent mode will go in and it will model the data, but it will model the data based on the data you have. But that's a problem because when we model based on the data we have, we assume that data we don't have is identical to the data we have. And once we start doing the analysis, then we see that that is a big fat lie. Yeah, I almost said it. So it's a big lie, because what we see is that the data that is missing is another type of data. We can see that a consent is given to somebody who trusts you as a company or an organization. So the higher a person is in the marketing funnel, the less likely they will be to give consent, right? And that means all our marketing effort, which is the core of what we should be tracking, is underrepresented in the data we have and the data that we use to make decisions on. So huge problem. Also, what is the problem about tracking everything? It's really basic, and some of you suffer under this every day. When we track everything, we have to maintain everything, right? So being in data and analytics is so much about maintenance. It's going around fixing that number on that page because someday there might come somebody into the organization who will need that number. So we're not really pushing the decisions, we're just pushing data around. We're maintaining data because maybe one day somebody wants to make a decision, right? So spending time on data cleaning, which is nice. And when somebody actually comes to us and say, hey, Steen, go in and analyze this, it's really difficult because there's so many relations and there's such a lack of schooling in analysis on analytics data. So if I gave you all access to the same data from the same website and I said, you get 1,000 kroners each for going in, analyzing this data and come up with some amazing recommendations for this business, odds are you would come out with like 80% different recommendations. Because we don't have a clear process in relations to what is working, because a lot of stuff is contextual. And because there's too many answers, we sometimes get afraid to present our data with convictions. I've never seen any presentation by any part of the organizations with a longer caveat at the beginning. I will present these numbers to you, but it's under the assumption that yes, the weather in Sweden was like this under these circumstances, and this campaign was working, and this tracking was not working. So based on these assumptions, my conclusion is this. Right? And that's because we're nerd. We've been told that it's science, that we spend way too much time being insecure when it comes to the data. But a big thing in it is also that we get involved in too many decisions. Now, there's a problem when it comes to decisions, that decision making, we can only make so many decisions during a day. We can only make so many decisions before we start getting decision fatigue. So by being involved in somebody who wants some obscure number, or somebody who wants a dashboard on something ridiculous that they're not going to use anyway, that will remove our focus from why we got hired. Because why does anybody hire anybody? Why has anybody hired you as an analyst or a consultant? Because they think the business will be better with you in it. Right? It's kind of, you're an investment. We invest in you so you can analyze this data so we can make more money. Right? And then that's kind of the assumption that it's built on, but is that the role that we fulfill? When we go home from work, do we think, hey, what great decisions did I make today? Did I earn my value? The salary my boss paid me, did I really deliver on that? Or was I making dashboard for somebody who's not really understanding this, right? So we get this decision fatigue. And when it finally happens, and don't get too sad because I've seen this happen a lot. When an analyst finally comes in and says, boss, we need to do this now because it's really important, the boss will say, well, yeah, let's park it for now. Because I'm not really sure that I trust this, and I'm not going to prioritize it. So I'm going to park it for now, and then we'll look at it later. Of course, this probably never happened to you because you're so convincing and raw that you just come in and they just do it, right? But the problem is that when we have this, when we push this and it ends in indecision, right? The problem is that data loses value over time, like I said. It's an ice cream. So I come with a recommendation that is valuable now, and it gets implemented in 11 months. Most likely the value of that decision or that activity will be completely watered out and not really show the value it had if we moved on it in the beginning.